My name is Madeline, and I've had different people over the years of the podcast episode being out ask me about the origins. Um, the I Am Madeline Pod is the podcast. All the information's there, and you're going to have to bear with me. I caught COVID in September for the first time, and hopefully the last time, and I've had a bit of a persistent cough, so hold on. I was going to wait till it settled, but you know what? It's still like stacked up no matter what. So, I am post-viral Epstein-Barr, 44 years. I just turned 44 years in August, I realized recently. I am in my 50s. I was 12 when it struck me down. Long COVID are the latest to experience what I've been experiencing. And Madeline isn't my in real life name. And the reason that we're using the Madeline pseudonym is because when an opportunity first came up to speak to a journalist, and I can post a list of all of the articles, but I'm only going to post the latest one. But if people are interested, then the Twitter, IamMadelinePOD, the pinned tweet has all of the articles. Um, I I was told by the few medical practitioners who actually understand my disease, in particular myalgic encephalomyelitis, which tends to be triggered by a virus. Not always, but that tends to be a big trigger for many of us into the disease. Epstein-Barr is a big one. Long COVID, seeing a resurgence of Epstein-Barr. Anyway, I'm a font of information, and it's all in the podcast. But the whole point of me putting my story out there, it's because I want to live. The whole point of me speaking to advocates and bureaucrats and government ministers is because I want to live. And we still don't have an MSP category of coverage for myalgic encephalomyelitis. We're nowhere with post-viral disease, which long COVID sufferers are discovering en masse in like the millions just in our country alone. We tend to refer to ourselves as the millions missing. And we tend to be in positions like you're seeing me right now. I'm doing this lying down because postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, I think is what it stands for, means that when we're upright, we lose 30% blood flow to the brain, where a healthy person loses 7. Um, so it's hard for me to put my thoughts together, and I'm super tired from, like I'm ending up with a tenancy risk because I can't even get the most basic support that the BC Women's Hospital told me I had to get, which is housekeeping, because I landed up on assistance. The second round of mono disabled me, and because I was coming out of university, there was no way for me to accrue savings. And so the fight for my life, the only way that I had a shot, because what was explained to me by medical providers is that, which is true, when I thought about it, I know they're right, which is that I'm too sick for the force of public pressure, that all of that, all in its own, would cost me just way too much energy. And so ME, it's got a lot of facets, but one of the big ones is the energy production issues. And it's a lot like, not a lot like, one of the best metaphors I've found to explain it is your phone battery. I think everyone's experienced the heartbreak of having your phone battery, not hold a charge properly. And so then you have to reduce app usage. You have to stop updating apps. You have to take down, background data. You have to reduce energy everywhere you can. So the current prejudice, because it's based on psychosomatizing the disease, as many diseases have been in the past, and that includes thyroid disease, diabetes, epilepsy. All of these diseases got people forcibly committed to mental institutions. And with ME, there's a documentary called Unrest, and they document a person in Scandinavia, I can't remember which country, but being forcibly committed. Could you imagine being forcibly committed for diabetes or thyroid disease, or, you know what I mean? Still happening. So there's a therapy, I'm air quoting, therapy called graded exercise therapy, which is the worst thing you can do for a mitochondrial disorder. What I was instructed to do by the BC Women's Hospital was to stay inside my energy envelope. And that's hard to gauge, and it can flex a bit. And the more you push your energy envelope, the more you deteriorate. In the same way that the more you push your phone battery, the worse it gets. Um, and so the idea of like, even if I went fully public and the GoFundMe accrued millions of dollars and gave me time to do a human rights case and paid for all of my treatments at governing body rates and at the amount that I need to be doing, not the like minimal on charity rates that I'm doing right now, I'm still too sick for my body to handle that pressure. And I know this for a fact because some of the community work I've done over the years has been way too much for me physically, and because I do it in my neighborhood. My neighborhood's one of the most worrisome areas because we're looking at, when I walk out my door, when I walk down the street, when I go to medical appointments in my neighborhood, like having multiple conversations about the same thing, answering the same questions, especially in regards to MAID. Now, MAID is a big hot button topic, like medical assistance in dying. And the only reason I applied for it is because I knew where I was heading. I didn't have an advocate. I didn't know how to get an advocate. And I still know where I'm heading when I run out of money. Right now, I'm not entirely certain where that is because having COVID in September, they put me on Paxlovid, which dramatically improved some of my pre-existing symptoms for those 5 days. And even after, even though I bounced down again, I'm still doing way better than I was. So I was on an intravenous cocktail for what I only know how to describe as cell suffocation, where the mitochondria are struggling so much to like even process oxygen into the cell. I have plenty in my bloodstream. It feels like I'm suffocating. Breathing and holding my breath start to feel the same, and that's not a good thing at all. So Paxlovid, increased energy, decreased pain, the POTS settled, a lot of the neurological symptoms just dissipated altogether for those 5 days. And while the bulk of those reasserted, I've still had a little bit of a better energy profile, so much so that I haven't needed to be on the intravenous. I'm only on hyperbaric. And that's not great as a standalone, but I'm doing a heck of a lot better than I was before that one dose of Paxlovid. But nobody will try another one yet because the research isn't anywhere. So it's hard to know. Was it working on another virus that's been running rampant that lives in the family of COVID? Or, as I recently discovered, Paxlovid decreases the replication of Epstein-Barr. Has Epstein-Barr been hiding in an organ? Or has Epstein-Barr turned off my body's ability to see it? And both of those things are, research documented, that the body ceases to produce antibodies to it because it can't see it anymore. So all of that is a roundabout way of saying, hi, my name is Madeline. That's the name I'm known publicly as. There are some articles, no mainstream articles yet, which is, I don't know how I get to survive without mainstream articles. I've been fighting to try to even start a human rights case. All of that's in the podcast. Again, IamMadelinePOD, and I'll link that in the underneath thing. And so this isn't a big, like razzle dazzle. I was gonna wait till I was feeling better, but it's like, you know what? December. It's already December, and if I'm to have any shot to survive into and through January, I need to put this out now, because the cold hard fact is that I don't know who's going to donate to a GoFundMe in January. So this is where I'm at. If I can stay off the intravenous, then I can make it through December for sure. If I deteriorate back into the cell suffocation, then I'm going to run out of money fast, fast, fast. And a big part of that is going to be, does the suite inspection that's happening next week, are they okay enough? I was blessed to have some people step out unexpectedly, like people I wouldn't have thought to ask even. Do I finally get housekeeping supports? It's like this cliffhanger. Can I finally get the most basics of You'll hear me rattle on about that in the podcast. The podcast, the first 5 episodes are done by 2 journalists, Ash Kelly and Kelvin Gawley. They're amazing, great research. The next, I think, is 7 or 8 episodes, and most of them are quite short in duration because brain power, not so much. That I document the 44 years and what this has been like, and then the rest have been updates. Sometimes I focus on particular themes, especially if I'm mostly on Twitter because with the dyslexia combining with the neurological effects of the myalgic encephalomyelitis and the fibromyalgia, also post-virally instigated for me. Um, I find like Facebook and Instagram just really hard to navigate, and I don't have the brain power to try to figure out TikTok. So this is me trying to put myself out there just that little bit more. But, like if you ever see me fully reveal my in real life identity, it's because I've given up. I've given up hope. I'm grateful for MAID, and I'm grateful for the empowerment that it gives me when we get to the point of where I can't move and I can't speak and I can't eat, when I'm faced with being in a care home. Even just being faced in a care home, I'm going to end up there because there's no MSP category of coverage for my disease. So there's no understanding at any layer of current allopathic medicine about how to manage my disease. So that's going to be a horror all into itself. And it will be a death sentence, full stop. So it's very much do I jump or do I burn situation. So even though I've been approved on quality of life, I've only been approved on quality of life because there's no category of coverage for my disease. So I don't know, man. But what I'd like to be empowered to do is live. And I've said this in the podcast, repeatedly. It's fiscally irresponsible to allow a person with a disability to deteriorate. It always costs more. The supports I need, like housekeeping, oh, it's too expensive. Well, no, it's not, because of the 2 programs that I know of who are out there, and I'm not eligible for either one of them. That's no MSP category of coverage for my disease. Both of them, the amount of bureaucracy involved in them is a a catastrophic expense. But let's set that all aside. It's a human rights atrocity. And I have yet to be able to find a way or someone to help me to do a human rights case. And I'm still fighting for that because one of the things that's kept me going, and it's been a big part of all the community work I've done over the past 20 years, is purpose. And I know that what's happening to me isn't just happening to me, and that the fight I'm fighting could help so many more people on either PWD assistance supports or low income persons with disability, or post-viral diseases. And I've, after over 4 decades, I have the vast array of them. So that's trying to sum it up in a short. But the long is in the podcast, and I'll put the GoFundMe below. If you're able to help, if you're able to share, I would be so grateful. If you know of a nonprofit lawyer who could help me start a case, that would be amazing, but I have to be alive to see that through. So, there's an advocacy thing coming out like late next year that if I can make it to that, I think that changes, I think that could really change things. Hard to know. I'm the eternal optimist. But I'm also really realistic about I could die next month. I could die this month. Um, on minimal supports. I found treatments. I just can't afford tests to figure out what they're doing. And it doesn't even matter because the Ministry of Health is stonewalling officially. They won't even talk to me. They ignored the Finance Committee's recommendation to even create a category of coverage for my disease. That was last fall, and the BC budget this spring just ignored it. But a category of coverage isn't enough. The UK's had one for, I don't know, decades. And they just recently came out with a I'm sorry statement of like, ooh, oopsie, maybe we should be doing tests and treatments. Maybe we should be really taking this seriously and stop psychosomatizing. And there's more than enough research that says this is not a psychosomatic disease. That's ridiculous nonsense. And the hard part about all of this is that it's entrenched in gender bias. Post-viral diseases afflict all gender, but they afflict women at higher rates than men. And I'm going to link the article that talks about the study of the NIH in the States research funding, and it's really shocking, the disparity in funding for diseases that afflict women at higher rates than men, and especially when you're looking at diseases that afflict even very few men. It's like radically more money going into that. So like all of these are creating the situation I'm in right now. So I want more time to fight. And at this point, I'm not even looking for a good quality of life. I'm looking for an adequate quality of life, and I'm nowhere near it. I'm nowhere near it right now. So this is number one of the videos. I think it's longer than the 4 minutes they recommend, but I'm doing my best in a new medium.